the floor. Okay, go for it.
Okay. So I recently done a video over this past year covering the topics of John Durham Sr. and John Durham Jr. and how most people don't realize that there are a father-son duo who are both in law. My work was really based off of the work of another individual named 𝗦𝗵𝗆 I was covering his Twitter feeds at a time before Twitter went on their big purge of cancellation. Michael was putting out numerous excellent Twitter feeds covering various topics of the alternative patriot movement. And so John Durham Jr. was one of those topics. So the key in understanding the Durhams is that you have to understand they were both appointed as U.S. attorney, which is a very high position. There are 93 districts of U.S. attorney in the United States. So the senior. Is that
your friend Michael Ray? Is that him?
I told him about the stream. Is it okay if he comes on to you?
Okay, so we're going to add him on. Can I add him?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Michael is here. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. So you guys continue. I'd like to take a back seat now. There you go.
Okay.
Right,
yes. Yes. So it's also saying, so the 93 U.S. attorneys. So senior is the U.S. attorney for Connecticut. Junior is the U.S. attorney for Eastern District of New York. And basically, there was an article that was written called on I-24 News, which discussed Kevin Kleinsmith's eventual judgment for his actions in changing information from the CIA in order to further the Russia collusion narrative.
Yeah, he doctored Carter Page's 302s, just like Miss Lisa Page doctored General Flynn's 302s. That's what it is.
Yes.
Correct?
So the I-24 news article shows a picture of John Durham Jr. and states that he was the one who was responsible for, basically charging Kevin Kleinsmith. And it was specified that it was him in the article, which is interesting because also there was a Fox News piece that was produced around that time that actually showed a picture of the senior. So this led some of us to the conclusion that there is some type of identity shell game being played. Michael, I'm not sure if there's something else you want to add there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the more interesting thing was I've been following, both John Durhams for since early 2019, actually 2018, when I'd heard that Sessions had appointed him to the MS-13 federal task force. And so that was different for me because when I saw there was an article written quite a while back, it mentioned that Sessions had appointed John J. Durham, Eastern District of New York. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not the same one as John H. Durham because he's Connecticut. And so when I saw those two discrepancies, I was like, wait a minute, that's bizarre. That's a little odd. But as I kept tracking them, it started to make more and more sense. And this morning, actually, I saw an update for one of the internal investigations in the Eastern District of New York, where a internal prosecutor had been basically colluding and corrupting an internal investigation, and he was charged with 5 years imprisonment. And leading that case is John Joseph Durham, and that's the first time since the Richard P. Donahue cases back in 2019 that I'd seen John Joseph Durham show up on United States Eastern District of New York court listing this morning.
Okay, so you're saying that John Durham Jr. is the one that filed the case against Carter Page.
Oh, yeah, correct. The against Kevin Kleinsmith, the one with regard to Carter Page.
No, I mean against Kevin Kleinsmith. I'm sorry, not Carter Page. Yeah, Kevin Kleinsmith was the one that framed Carter Page. You're correct.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
So it's really interesting because I think a lot of people just want to, they want to jump right to, okay, normal justice system rules and normal process, but they don't understand that, like, this goes all the way back to the 𝗏𝗏 scandal and back to the Hillary, laptop and the Wiener, not Hillary laptop, but the Wiener laptop, and it being misplaced, and just a bunch of, things that shouldn't have happened, essentially, right? I don't like to speak in hypotheticals, but we're pretty darn sure that it was MS-13 hired, gang members that were hired to kill Seth Rich. So when you look at it from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense as to why John Joseph Durham, whose whole entire scope for his investigations, federal or otherwise, covers MS-13, and he was put on MS-13 task forces on multiple occasions. So it was under Sessions he was put onto one, and then his scope was expanded under Barr, which was titled the Vulcan Task Force. And just believe it was mid-August, I think it was Grassley. Senator Grassley had sent a letter inquiring to know as to what happened to that task force and whether it was still active. So seeing his name as a lead prosecutor on a current case this morning was cool. So show that he's still, active within the district courts.
Wow. So basically, I have a question. Why do you think this the Durham D class is taking so long?
I believe personally because of the scope and the literal mandate of the authority. So he has the mandate to not just cover 2016, but he has the mandate to cover foreign interference in an election, right? So
they went to 2020 because, yeah, there we go. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
so that is the dad, right? That's the father, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the son's doing something else, which is getting the
RICO.
Criminals that are here.
Yeah, he's working the RICO cases, which is what took down the mob.
Wow, that is amazing. That is so good to know. So do you think that there's going to be any results soon from the father's investigation, which went from the 2016 to 2020? Do you think there's going to be a result soon, or we're going to have to wait?
Well, the good news in the son's case, if you look at it from perspective's angle, the politician was actually charged with his crime back in 2016, right. And it didn't actually go to trial till early 2017, October 26th of 2017, and that case is just now coming to a close. So obviously the wheels of justice grind slowly, but with this is like this is like a nuke of epic proportions. I mean, you have all of these criminals who think they've gotten away with it, because when Durham Sr., the one you were just referencing, he impaneled a grand jury on August 17th last month, which is funny. It was around the same time as his son doing the MS-13. But there is no media interference in a grand jury's impanelment. So no one will know about it. There will not be any leaks. And you have to remember, Durham took over Huber's investigation of the Clinton Foundation, as well as Horowitz's audit, I guess you would call it, or report. So all of that information traces back to John Durham Sr., and then through the MS-13 and George Soros-funded racketeering that was going on, it's all connected. And so people in D.C. in the swamp, they think that because John Durham from Connecticut had stepped down from his U.S. attorney prosecutor position, they don't realize that as a special counsel, he has full mandate and authority to investigate all of the election, 2016 on to 2020, Hillary's emails, Russiagate, Ukraine, all of that. So if nothing comes from it, then I just don't see that happening. Yeah, because you wouldn't impanel a grand jury unless you have evidence that you're presenting, which is what he's doing.
And he received the special counsel appointment, and that is still ongoing after all this time. So it suggests that probably something's going to come to the front.
And it's also multiple mandates too. It was like beautifully played musical chairs, and we didn't even notice it. Well, I mean, I did after long looking into it, but it was just a perfectly played. Because who's going to know there's two John Durhams? You see John Durham, prosecutor, retiring or stepping down, as it said. That's all of the deep state taking a huge sigh of relief, not knowing that Sessions actually appointed the outside prosecutor and that it wasn't John Huber. It was actually John Durham Jr.